Good old Project Stealth. I started this build quite a while ago with the goal of building a full amplifier rack and subwoofer system in the trunk of a vehicle that can be completely hidden when needed, allowing for transport of groceries or cargo, giving us a stealthy look. I did the upholstery wrapping video for this project and then, well, I forgot to do the final project overview. So that, my friends, that's what we're gonna do right now. How did I make these panels so that they could be easily removed? What does the system sound like with those panels in place? That and more in this project overview video. So if you are new to this build, let me bring you up to speed and tell you what's in here. So I have two amplifiers. There's one over here and one over here. This is a 6-channel LC-6.1200 from Audio Control. It's running the tweeter and the 3-inch mid in the coincident style speaker from Illusion Audio. That's the C3CX. It's running those active, and then it's running the 6-inch Focal polyglass speaker down in the door. The amplifier on this side is the Audio Control Epicenter 1200, which is running these two Focal K2 Elite 10s. More on the box in a second here, but then between the two amplifiers is an Audio Control DM810 digital signal processor. These three pieces of audio equipment are mounted on an expanded PVC amplifier rack. You can see around this beauty panel, we of course have the edge-lit LED. We then have some vinyl wrapped transition, and then we have that piece that fits within the pocket here that is obviously wrapped in carpet that gives us the stealth look. A lot of you guys are always curious though, when you put the cover on, does it allow the amplifiers to overheat? And the answer is no. If you're using good quality amplifiers, they have good cooling built in. I still have plenty of room around the heat sinks on the amplifiers. I have plenty of room between each device for airflow to move underneath that panel. I've played this system for several hours at a time on longer drives. It does get warm, but it does not overheat. Everything works good. Let's talk about the subwoofer enclosure now. Again, this is two 10-inch Focal K2 subwoofers. They're obviously firing upwards, and what I did is I made a stacked enclosure that matches the shape of the wheel well of this vehicle. It's completely sealed, it's stacked up and mounted in that wheel location. Now there's two common questions that you guys usually have about that. The first question is, why would you use up the spare tire wheel well? Why don't you have a spare tire? This vehicle actually has oversized brakes from the factory where you can't even use a donut style spare, and they're different offset wheels from front to back. So it actually doesn't even have a spare from the factory, which is one of the reasons that I was able to use this. The other thing I do want to mention is there are times that people just get rid of the spare. If you have AAA or something like that with roadside assistance, if it's a vehicle that you're usually only driving around town, maybe it's a sacrifice you're willing to make. Hey, I got a flat tire, I'm just gonna call up a tow truck. It's not like it's that far to a tire store or whatever. I'll just deal with that, and the advantage is now I have a ton of usable space for a subwoofer enclosure in the vehicle. So just something to consider, and I think it's important for all of car audio to understand that everything is about trade-offs. You might not have the budget to get the most expensive speakers in the world. That's a trade-off. You're gonna find what works best for your budget. It's always, always, always about trade-offs. Now, the second really common question I always get from you guys is, hey, that panel that goes above, doesn't that block the bass? Doesn't it rattle like crazy? Doesn't it make it sound bad? I think you guys are going to be surprised. That's what we're going to test coming up. Let's talk about these panels though. How did I actually make these? And what did I do to get this little pull tab here? Well, to see the woodworking process, you guys can check out one of my previous videos. I'll put a link up in the corner of the screen. That'll give you insight to how I actually created all these shapes for the entire build. But then what I did is I found this special strap material. I'll put a link for you guys down in the video description. With this special strap material, I was able to cut a length of it. I then stapled it and adhered it to the back side of the panel. And you can see I made a little loop so I can get my finger through. And that way, it's super simple. I just have it kind of sticking out like that. I can just pull on it and I can remove these when I need to. I can keep those panels safely secured inside the vehicle when I'm not using them, when I want to show off the installation and when I'm normally driving around. And then when I have some cargo, or if I want to hide the install, I just simply put them in place. Now we're good to go. So does this cover rattle? If you have good headphones on right now, or if you have a subwoofer on your system, you can hear that I'm actually playing 34 Hertz, and you can see if I set my phone on there, there's no vibration whatsoever. The panel does not vibrate. Everything is good to go. I stopped the tone so you guys can hear me better, but what's important here is I made sure when I made this panel that it has a good tight fit with the transition from this piece to this piece. That's all involved in the woodworking. And with assembling all of these different pieces together in the trunk, I made sure that if I had two different layers of wood that would be touching each other that weren't bolted together, I made sure to isolate them using things like sound treatment materials and foam tape. Now we know that doesn't vibrate, but I also want to do a test between having this in place and having it removed, see if it makes a difference in the output. But I did want to mention this too. I forgot to mention this earlier. This panel is designed to pop up and move out of place. This gives me access to the battery if I need to pull it and change it out. I also have access to the fuse block here and here. This is the main system fuses. This is the accessory system fuses. So everything can be accessed and serviced. Let's do our output test now. I've got the panels in place. This is the stealth configuration. Let's see what kind of output I get out of the subwoofers. I'm going to close up the trunk. To do my testing, I'm going to be using this guy here, the Audio Control DM-RTA. I'd like to take a quick second to thank Audio Control for being a monthly channel sponsor and show you guys a little bit about this tool. With the DM-RTA, we have balanced line inputs and outputs, unbalanced line inputs and outputs. We have digital outputs and we have speaker level inputs. So this gives us everything we need to bring the signal in from a wide variety of different connections and send the signal out, because if we want to send the signal out and do some different test tones, we can. We can do a sine wave, we can play pink noise, a square wave. And then of course we don't want to only measure the actual signal, we want to measure the acoustic signal. So for that I have this microphone attached. The software allows us to measure the voltage of the signal. We can do an RTA, so we can actually tune using this. We can do a polarity check. We have an oscilloscope, but what I'm going to be using in this video is the SPL meter along with the microphone. A big thanks to them for being a monthly channel sponsor. If you want to learn more about the DM-RTA, link down in the video description. So I've currently got a 35 Hertz test tone going in the vehicle, and I'm measuring right about 131 decibels. I do want to mention this is not the max output of the system. I'm not doing a sine sweep or anything like that. I'm just taking a simple measurement at one frequency to see if there's a difference when we remove the panel. So we're right about 131. Let's go ahead and pop that panel off. All right, got this removed here. Now it's reading a little bit different because the trunk is still open. Let's close that. And let's see. We're still right at 131 with the panel removed. So surprisingly enough, really no difference between having the panel in place or not having the panel in place. Now, if you're doing SPL competitions, of course you're going to want to take into account every 1/10 of a decibel because, you know, that's super important for competing. But in this case, it doesn't even make that much of a difference. So it's nice. I can just leave this in if I need to. It really doesn't have that much of an impact on the sound. Now, I know you guys always like hearing a little bit of a sound test. Do keep in mind that I have to play royalty-free music, and also keep in mind that this is sound that you're hearing through a microphone and then hearing reproduced on whatever system you have, so it's really not accurate to what you're hearing here in person. But nevertheless, let's give you guys a little sample. So what is next for this project? Well, this one is completely done. It sounds great. It's nice and hidden. At least I think it's pretty hidden. What do you guys think? I'd love to hear from you. Let me know in a comment down below. The next project for me to wrap up, literally, is the Wrangler Loud build. So hey, if this is your first time here on my channel, I'd hope to have you as a subscriber so that you can catch that video and other videos in the future. Check out some of my other videos here on screen. Check out Audio Control with the DM-RTA testing tool, and a special thanks to Anthony, Bernard, Brian, William, Marcos, Michael, Jeremy, Doug, Steve, Emmanuel, Jerry, and the rest of the Patreon membership team. A big thanks to all those guys for making these videos possible. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you for watching.